30s was a flourishing age for film and animation. Characters such as Pluto, Mickey Mouse, Betty Boop, and Donald were created in this time period and are well known until this day. But although these characters are still well known today, the style in which they were animated in during the 30s is discontinued as technology advances and the popularity of computer graphics arises. But even in this age of technology, one studio manages to excel in bringing back the 1930s style and glory of animation. Studio MDHR accomplishes this by creating Cuphead, a game that heavily centralizes around the 1930s theme. How did they do it? Let's first talk about the animations. Thanks to today's technology, the tedious, repetitive process of animation is made easier. In some cases, such as Demon Slayer, the anime, some scenes are computer generated. Cuphead stays away from this and does the old-fashioned 30s way of animating. First, every frame is drawn on paper. Later on, each of those frames are inked before being put into the game. In the fight against Cackney Carnation, a boss in the game, the Flower Demon had to be drawn more than 30 times just for a few seconds of animation. Now imagine the amount of drawings and frames that had to be created in order to make this much content. This traditional style of animation gives the game a very nostalgic look that can be seen in cartoons such as Mickey Mouse or Betty Boop. Not only are the characters animated the exact same way as characters in 1930s cartoons were, but the creativity and surrealism from the time period can be seen in this game as well. An example of this creativity can be seen in Hildaberg, one of the bosses in the game. At the start of the fight, Hildaberg rides on top of a unicycle while her minions fire projectiles at the player. Throughout the fight, she transforms into clouds, shaped in different constellations such as Gemini, Taurus, and Sagittarius. In her final phase, she transforms into a crescent moon and continues to attack the player with UFOs. All this only takes place in one fight. Another example of a creative boss fight is Rumor Honeybottoms. She can appear as a normal bee, and in some cases, her head pops off and hangs from a chain as she proceeds to shoot bee missiles at the player. In her final phase, she turns into an airplane with homing missiles and wings that turn into razor blades. This is similar to 1930s cartoons where characters would have their limbs elongated or reshaped for humorous effects. Now, video games did not exist in the 30s, yet Studio MDHR manages to retain the 30s feel in elements outside of the game's main gameplay. For example, the cutscenes in Cuphead are still images that are drawn into an animated storybook. This is very similar to cartoons such as Pinocchio, where the film opens with an old-fashioned book. The item store in the game is a bar with a pig as the shopkeeper selling bottles that represent the items. This shop is also accompanied by sound effects straight out of a 30s cartoon. The pig has a booming deep voice similar to that of Bluto's from the cartoon Popeyes. The sound of a menu option being hovered over is a stretchy sound, which is commonly heard in old cartoons whenever a limb of a character is being stretched. Still on the topic of sound, we have their music. Studio MDHR created their own original soundtrack for the game. This comprises jazz music, ragtime, samba, and more. The jazz adds to the tension and fun of this otherwise innocent and cartoonish fight. The cheery tune played during level transitions make you feel as if you're taking a friendly stroll in a Mickey Mouse cartoon. Cuphead is a work of art thanks to its great soundtrack, its heavy attention to detail, and its traditional style of animation. No video game, movies, or even television shows have recreated the 1930s style of cartoons, nor accomplished this style as perfectly as Cuphead has. The game is a marvel to look at and listen to, and it is difficult for one to not feel nostalgic when immersed in the game's world. This game is as close as it gets to time traveling to the 30s and is truly a great unique gift to those who love that time period.